Oil ships and negotiations still stalled with Iran, but the action Thursday is on Capitol Hill.
I'd like to know what options you're considering now, given the cost from this war and the stalemate President Trump has put us in.
Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth putting a $25 billion price tag on the Iran war so far and defending his $1.5 trillion Pentagon budget proposal.
The president's budget request reflects the urgency of the moment.
The cost of war also on the minds of drivers. AAA says the national average for a gallon of gas jumped 7 cents overnight, hitting $4.30.
That's just ridiculous.
Gas prices don't affect just gas prices. It's also the price of groceries. It's the price, of just everything that's in the economy.
The White House keeping the economic squeeze on Iran with the blockade of their ships in the Strait of Hormuz. But thousands of Iranians hit the streets in a show of support for their supreme leader, who released this statement on Thursday. By God's will, the bright future of the Persian Gulf region will be a future without America. Friday is the deadline under the War Powers Resolution Act that gives the president 60 days for use of force without authorization from Congress. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
Iran Supreme Leader Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei has issued a fiery statement. It was read on state television and insists that Iran is going to consider both its nuclear program as well as its ballistic missile arsenal as crucial to its defenses. Now, this speech coming on Persian Gulf Day in Iran was read by a state television anchor, and it comes as it appears the Supreme Leader is trying to draw a pretty hard line on what he is willing to negotiate over as U.S. President Donald Trump tries to get one grand deal to both reopen the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow mouth of the Persian Gulf that's been shut off since the war began back on February 28th, as well as negotiate over Iran's nuclear program, its arsenal of ballistic missiles, as well as its support of proxies in the wider Middle East. We also heard Khamenei say through the state television anchor that he believed the only place that Americans belonged in the Middle East, in the Persian Gulf, was actually at the bottom of its waters. That's a direct threat, and that's likely not going to go over well with President Trump. He has been on social media over recent days insisting that Iran is falling apart, insisting that its oil pipelines were going to start exploding, and that it faced other challenges as the U.S. Navy continues its blockade of Iranian ships, turning them back around.
When you see 675 on that sign, what do you think?
I think it's killing me.
Drivers in California reacting to the climbing cost of filling up their tanks.
I just came for the drinks, because it's cheaper to get a drink here than it is to get, gas.
Across the country in Massachusetts, same story.
About $70.
What was it about 2-3 months ago?
About 50.
As of Wednesday, according to AAA, the national average price of regular gas stood at $4.23 a gallon, the highest price in nearly 4 years since July 2022. The recent jump means the cost is up 21 cents in just the last week, the largest weekly gain since March. Some experts are warning that a combination of factors may keep prices from coming down anytime soon.
We make the switch over from winter blend gasoline to summer blend gasoline, which is more expensive to make and more expensive for us to purchase at the pumps.
And the busy summer travel season is coming up, likely pushing up demand. It comes as uncertainty surrounding the war in Iran pushes oil prices higher. Brent crude oil prices, the global benchmark, surged higher than $125 per barrel early Thursday. I'm Reed Binion reporting.
So the motion adopted.
With just 6 months until the midterms, Florida lawmakers approved a new congressional map that could potentially add 4 Republican House seats. GOP leaders see it as a way to boost the party's chances in November, but Governor Ron DeSantis frames it as a response to population shifts.
We have almost a 1.5 million person voter advantage in terms of Republicans. This is an accurate depiction of what goes on the ground in Florida.
But the decision faces an uphill legal battle. Similar efforts have been stalled in Virginia after the state's highest court upheld a ruling blocking certification.
Regardless of what they do in Florida, we'll continue to push back. So don't let any MAGA extremists fool you about what may ultimately result from this decision.
Florida is one of several states redrawing its maps this election cycle, and a Supreme Court decision could encourage others to do the same. On Wednesday, the High Court struck down an electoral map in Louisiana that could have created a second black majority district. Democrats warn the ruling could prevent challenges to racial discrimination in voting.
That is a return to Jim Crow, taking decades of hard work, sweat, blood, and tears, and even people dying for the right to vote.
We should be colorblind. We should not discriminate in favor of or against any race.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has warned that Democrats will target 8 of Florida's Republican incumbents if the state redraws its map. In Tallahassee, Dana Marie McNichol, Fox News.
One of America's most widely used spy tools is about to expire. Authorization for the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, runs out at midnight unless Congress acts fast. The House passed a 3-year extension late Wednesday night, but it includes a ban on a central bank for cryptocurrency, which means the bill is likely dead on arrival in the Senate.
This is an important national security issue, and they shouldn't be tagging on other priorities.
I think it is going to have to go back to the House. I think it's a significant obstacle.
But House Republicans are pushing back, saying the banking provision is a national security issue.
Look, there's no better spy tool than a central bank digital currency and a control tool. So that we do think that it does fit within this bill.
Another big hurdle, a major ideological fight over whether intelligence agencies should need a warrant to spy on foreign targets. Critics say reform is needed because Americans who interact with those targets are also surveilled.
Section 702 is literally Congress's attempt to continue the most illegal portion of that by making it legal.
Ultimately, the House and the Senate will need to get on the same page to save FISA, but that's looking unlikely at the moment.
They're trying to jam us with some things. We're jamming them with some things, but I think ultimately this is the best representative government we have.
The spy powers under FISA are renewed on an annual basis, so they'll be in place until March 2027, but the program needs to be reauthorized by Congress in order to keep operating beyond that. In Washington, Martha Rivera, Fox News.
So your journey is almost over. It's just
These doors when you close. Shut. Face. Or what?
Great king.
What would you rate his visit?
The greatest king in my book. Look at so.
Your Majesty, what do you think of the Trump Renaissance here in D.C., all the improvements?
We'd like to let us know about yes?
Thank you. Have a good time. Have a good trip.
Bye. Bye. Enjoy Virginia.
Great people. We need more people like that in our country. Agreed.
Can we ask you some questions?
Really great people. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just a minute. Thank you, First Lady.
Furry friends fill our hearts with so much joy. But they can also empty our wallets.
When we talk about ultrasound, CT, MRI, they are very expensive.
Dr. Michael Bailey, president of American Veterinary Medical Association, says rising costs for medical supplies and new technologies are causing vets to charge more. And just like human healthcare, animal healthcare is expensive, and most pet owners are paying their pet bills out of pocket.
You can get pet insurance, which is one of those things that's there for any catastrophic event.
His group estimates only 4% of U.S. pets are covered by pet insurance. Bailey says there are multiple insurance options, and some employers offer their employees discounted rates. The American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals estimated that in 2021, the annual costs for a dog were nearly $1,400 and more than $1,100 for cats. Those costs are even more during their first year because of extra exams and vaccines. So what can you do to help keep costs down?
Work with your veterinary healthcare team. They're there not to make things expensive. They're there to make sure that you have a long, healthy life with your furry friend.
Bailey recommends talking to your vet about wellness packages, financing options. There are even programs that offer financial aid for vet bills. And many local shelters will also offer discounted care for low-income families. He says staying on top of routine exams and vaccines can help prevent or detect diseases early. Also, keep your pet at a healthy weight, because a healthy pet is a happy pet, and that's priceless. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
New numbers suggest the economy is holding up despite the strain of the Iran conflict. GDP rose 2% in the first quarter, bouncing back from a weak 0.5% reading at the end of last year. But things continue to get more expensive for consumers. Prices rose 3.5% in March compared with a year ago, the biggest increase in almost 3 years. Hershey boosted prices last year because of higher costs, but chocolate sales held up. Overall sales rose 11%. The iconic chocolate company reported a higher profit for the first quarter. Its earnings topped Wall Street expectations. Alphabet, Amazon, Meta Platforms, and Microsoft all reported strong earnings after the Wall Street close Wednesday. Investors remained focused on companies' AI investments. Eli Lilly is raising expectations for the year, citing very strong demand for its weight loss and diabetes treatments, Mounjaro and Zepbound. It also recently received FDA approval for its GLP-1 weight loss pill. And Elon Musk returns to the stand in the case between him and OpenAI's Sam Altman. Things got heated when the Tesla and SpaceX CEO faced cross-examination, Musk accusing OpenAI of straying from its original mission as a nonprofit meant to develop AI for the benefit of humanity. The company says Musk is trying to squash competition to his own AI venture. CJ Papa, Fox News.
Behind Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's is the second most common neurodegenerative disorder in the U.S., and the number of people diagnosed with it is expected to double by 2040. As the disease progresses, falls become more common.
That is costly, and it's impactful to them and their quality of life.
Jay Alberts with Cleveland Clinic Neurological Institute says past prediction models weren't great at anticipating fall risk for a patient with Parkinson's until they actually fell the first time.
The first fall has consequences, and we should be really trying to prevent that first fall.
In this study, Alberts and other researchers say they developed a model to effectively predict when a person with Parkinson's disease will fall for the first time. Key predictors that researchers say raises risk of a first fall are changes in the brain's processing speed. Walking requires the brain to compute visual information, and shifts in pace of that can affect the way a person walks. Albert says the other major consideration is gait speed.
Those individuals who walked a little slower than 1.1 meter per second were at a higher risk for that first fall.
Once patients notice those first shifts in gait and processing speed, Albert says they can be taught to compensate for those changes through occupational therapy, physical therapy, and dual task training, which involves movement like walking with an activity requiring mental processing like counting.
So thinking of these things to have much more of a prescriptive approach to preventing the fall.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The revival of Evita, starring Rachel Zegler, is coming to Broadway. The production, directed by Jamie Lloyd, was a big hit last year in London, with Zegler winning multiple awards for her performance. It's due to hit Broadway in the spring of 2027.
This is a little overwhelming.
Claire Danes is lovesick. The Emmy-winning actress is set to star in and executive produce a new romantic drama series by that title for Netflix. It's based on the Israeli series The Best Worst Thing. Danes will play a breast cancer surgeon who receives her own cancer diagnosis.
No one could stand between my men and home.
The Odyssey is the latest epic from a filmmaker known for them, Christopher Nolan. But apparently that doesn't mean it'll be epically long. Nolan said recently it's shorter than his longest film, the Oscar-winning Oppenheimer, which ran 3 hours. The Odyssey unspools in theaters July 17th. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
You are here to help us through our current scandal.
20 years after the original, The Devil Wears Prada 2 struts into theaters to open the month of May. It's followed on May 8th by a trio of flicks. Billie Eilish, Hit Me Hard and Soft the Tour, live in 3D, directed by Eilish and James Cameron, video game adaptation Mortal Kombat 2, and talking animal comedy, The Sheep Detectives.
Hey, never touch the buttons.
The first new Star Wars theatrical film since 2019 flies into theaters May 22nd. Star Wars: The Mandalorian and Grogu continues the story started in the Mandalorian streaming series. It's joined in cinemas for the Memorial Day weekend by director Boots Riley's new film, I Love Boosters.
Look, I know how this sounds, but you gotta understand, it's massive in there.
Inspired by the internet horror story, Backrooms creeps into theaters May 29th. Marching beside it is the D-Day drama Pressure. Getting refills of popcorn in Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
A tense and technically challenging rescue situation amid raging floodwaters forced Texas rescuers to get creative by getting jumper cables involved. Officers with the White Settlement Police Department responded to reports of a woman and 3 kids in a car trapped in rushing floodwaters. Rescuers got the children to safety, but the woman was trapped in the front of the car, which was teetering toward the fast-moving waters.
I need something to get wrapped around her.
A quick-thinking officer grabbed a pair of jumper cables and used them as an improvised lifeline, instructing the woman to anchor herself with the cables in case she was swept away. Fire officials soon arrived and pulled the vehicle back from the brink, and all 4 family members were brought to safety and unharmed. You know, it doesn't have to be full-on storming for there to be an imminent threat. Just take it from meteorologist Tyler Eliason of Tennessee, who shared video of a sudden lightning strike in a Memphis area parking lot. No one appeared to be harmed by the shocking turn of events, but Eliason used it to warn followers that sometimes lightning strikes can happen miles away from their parent thunderstorms. Finally, from a shocking bolt to a snoozin' bear. That is what Colorado Springs firefighters had to deal with when they were alerted to a bear stuck in a tree and zonked out, which they say were Colorado Parks and Wildlife officials' exact words. With a little teamwork and patience, they were able to get the sleepy fella down before safely relocating it. And don't worry, it was no worse for wear, save for a little bear bedhead. 5 more minutes, Mom. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
This facility is a roughly 5 megawatt solar facility, currently hosting 10 mama cows and their calves, and meant to be a testing ground so that this type of technology and this practice can be deployed more widely over time.
Solar is one of the most powerful tools we have for cutting emissions. And for a long time, the conversation has been, okay, but the trade-off is that it requires all of this additional land. But I think we're starting to see enough research that when you do it well, the land use can be more of an opportunity than a downside.
We're studying the long-term impacts. One of those is that it retains soil moisture. For plants, that could mean things like we need less irrigation or we are more drought tolerant in this kind of a system with the presence of the solar panels. In terms of animal health, there's reduced heat stress when the animals have free access to shade. There's also decreased water consumption. There are more win-wins than trade-offs on a co-located site like this.
Cattle are just a lot more ubiquitous in agricultural communities. It's something people relate to more. for farmers who are looking to get involved in agrivoltaics, it's more approachable. There's a real opportunity to improve land and a forage base and soil over time that will pay dividends to the landowner once the solar is decommissioned, and whether that's 20 years, 40 years, or 80 years from now.
Fox 54 Plus has your news, sports, and weather. Start your evening with Fox 54 at 5:30, delivering the latest headlines and live reports straight from the scene. Then, stay informed with Fox 54 News at 9, featuring your Tennessee Valley certified most accurate weather impact team, tracking everything from tornado threats to traffic delays during severe weather. Fox 54 Sports Extra brings you more of what sports fans crave, with deeper insights, expert analysis, and all the action that matters most. On Fox 54 Plus, you'll also find Alabama politics, plus 24/7 weather radar and real-time forecasts to keep you ahead of the storm. Looking for a quick recap? Don't miss Fox 54 Week in Review, highlighting the biggest stories of the week. Jumpstart your morning with Morning Rush. Fast-paced news updates, featured with uplifting stories from across the globe. Get your entertainment fix with Getting Real, where we break down movie reviews, top 10 lists, and spotlight the newest film. Die Hard fan? Locked On Sports dives deep into the Crimson Tide, the Tigers, college rivalries, and pro action. True crime warrior style? Killer Cases brings you gripping real-life stories that stick with you. Hungry for more? Cooking with Style serves up mouth-watering recipes that are easy to make and impossible to resist. From movie previews before you head to the theater with Take a Look, to must-know headlines from across the region and around the world with In the News. Watch all of these shows on demand and also on the Fox 54 News app. Available on Android and iOS devices. Streaming 24/7.
There's more to Fox 54 Plus with the Locked On Podcast Network. From the Tide to the Tigers, from college teams to pro, the Locked On Podcast Network gives you insights and analysis you just can't find anywhere else.
These kids, they want to play.
And I don't think so. I think it was Chad Baker Mazzara.
Locked On Sports, streaming every day of the week and right here on Fox 54 Plus.
Your wife is in a bar. You said she's unresponsive.
This is what he's going to tell you.
Trying to find the first place to put a body.
No, sir.
The only thing they could do was kill him.
Be the jury and to find the defendant.
I remember standing at the doorway to Polly's room.
Dylan is a coward. He hid behind a gun.
I gave a call. No.
Coleman's been investigating a probable serial killer.
He was claiming responsibility for the attacks on Thomas Moser.